What is up, harvesters? Welcome back to the returning viewers, and if you're brand new here, welcome to Hobby Harvest. My name is Ken. So today I want to talk to you guys about the best place to hunt in the morning. But before we get into that, what do you guys think of the beard? Do you guys like it? Do you hate it? Leave a comment down below. We'll see if we hang on to it or if we trim it back to what it's been like on some of my older videos. Of course, had this conversation with the wife, and I told her I was going to at least keep it through deer season. But then, of course, ice fishing season's after deer season, so we'll see how long it hangs on for. But leave a comment down below if you like it or not. So where is the best place to hunt in the morning? Well, first we need to talk about the things to consider when selecting where to hunt in the morning. So a morning hunt is going to be anchored to a bedding area. So in the morning, the deer are leaving their feeding areas, wherever that may be, wherever they traveled in the middle of the night. It's very random a lot of times, so we can't exactly predict where they went overnight, but we do know where their bedding areas typically are, and if you don't, I have other videos on how to figure out where those are. But once you know where their bedding areas are, you want to set up anchored to those. Now, you can hunt right in the bedding area itself. I like to hunt more on a area that I know the deer are going to travel through to get back to that bedding area. And the reason for that is if you're not a brown it's down hunter, you're going to hypothetically have deer that you do not want to harvest come back to that bedding area. If you're sitting in it, they're going to be bedded down hypothetically right underneath you. And you're going to, of course, have to either spook them out of there to get out of there, wait for them to maybe mosey on over a couple hundred yards, as they will do when they're in their bedding areas in the daytime. They don't actually sit in the same exact spot throughout the entire day a lot of the times. Or you'll have to sit there all the way until the PM hunt when they get up and leave those bedding areas to return to those food sources. So just a thing to keep in mind is if you don't want to be spooking deer that you're not trying to harvest, I like to hunt areas that I know the deer are going to move through to get to those bedding areas instead of hunting the actual bedding areas themselves. But if you're a brown it's down hunter, by all means sit right in the middle of that bedding area, get in there early and wait for them to return, and you will have success most likely trying to hunt that way. Now, the other thing we need to keep in mind when we are selecting where we're going to hunt in the morning is our wind and our thermals. So in the morning, the day is typically heating up, so your thermals will be traveling up and out. So in a situation where you may have deer that are bedded down in a bottom, you don't actually want to hunt down in that bottom because your wind's going to blow and drift right up that hill, and the thermals are going to help carry it up there even faster. So you're going to essentially completely blow out the entire direction that the wind is headed out of that area. So typically in the morning you want to hunt the highlands, and in the afternoon you want to hunt the lowlands because that's where your thermals are going the opposite direction. But in the morning you really want to be on a higher point. Ideally, if you can have a stand that is however high up in the ground, that's definitely going to help you. But if that stand is on top of some topography that also gives you a little bit of extra height compared to where the deer would be walking through the woods, so your thermals have more than enough chance to drift up and over them, even if your wind is blowing directly at them. So just something to consider. Now, if you guys are on private land, I typically like to have 2 stand locations at each attraction so I can select which one I want to hunt depending on the wind direction. If you guys are hunting public and they don't let you keep stands out there, by all means just set the stand up where it's going to be advantageous to your wind direction that morning. So the other thing we want to consider when we're setting up where these locations are is, like I said, I don't always like to sit right in the middle of the bedding area, but I do like to be on a path that goes into that bedding area. Well, how do you figure out what that is? Well, it takes a little bit of homework. You need to know where the bedding area is, obviously, because we're keeping these AM hunts anchored to that bedding area. But you also need to know where the available food sources are. So be these food plots, be these regenerative growth, a recent logging activity area in the woods that's had a lot of regenerative growth come up. That's what you're looking for with that regenerative growth. But anywhere where there's a lot of stem count, a lot of twigs, a lot of native grasses, even acorns close to the ground where the deer can get at them. We are not talking about big mature woods here or fields that are just barren with nothing in them that have been plowed under already. These can be agricultural fields. They can be anything that the deer happen to be feeding on that time of year. Red osier dogwood as we start heading into the winter here. They'll even be feeding on things like box elder, especially those box elders that have the little small growth near the ground. They absolutely love those. I've seen them eat those over a food plot before. when they're nice and young and tender. But what you guys are just trying to do is figure out if bedding area is over here and food sources over here, and you get an idea that the deer travel through this general area in the morning to return to their bedding areas. You want to figure out the place that is the pinch point between there. So what I do is if it's just open hardwoods over here and open hardwoods over here, and I have a nice corridor of thick cover going through the middle of it, those deer are going to find the thickest path of cover in the morning to return from wherever they got last night to their bedding area. So if you imagine that bedding area, it's going to be a thicker area because they want that browse in their bedding area. If there are like spider webs of other thick cover that leave that bedding area, that's how they're going to return in there. They're not going to just walk through an open field. They're not going to walk through open hardwoods unless they have no other option. If that's their only option, then yes, of course they will. They're also going to use your other choke points, the other pinch points that the deer typically use, things like saddles in topography, shelves of topography, just other things. If you have fences out there, if you have water out there, swamps out there, things that create these pinch points, that's of course where they're going to move through there as well. So just get on one of these natural pinch points between the food area and the bedding area and just get yourself in there, set up. They will pass through there. That is how I have shot the majority of the bucks in my 25 plus hunting career at this point. And it's just getting into those areas, knowing they're going to want to be in the thickest cover to return to that bedding area. So find that thick part of the woods. That's why we see deer in the thick part of the woods all the time. They're going to want to be there. Get there, set up with your wind and your thermals in your favor, and you should see success. Now, the other thing you can do is obviously sweeten up these areas. So in a lot of other videos, I talk about making man-made deer trails, putting in a mock scrape, putting in a water hole if you can. If through this thick line of cover, you can make a trail that bends and winds and weaves, because you don't want it to be like a big, long, straight shooting lane. You'd want it to bend and weave so they still have that feeling like they're in thick cover, but it's opened up so they can travel on it easier. They're going to travel on that path through that thick cover. You put them to a mock scrape that's right where your stand is. That way, hopefully they'll stop and touch it, gives you a stopped shot. They're not going to keep moving through there. And then what it'll do is also make them want to hit up that spot exactly too. They won't want to wander off, a trail a little the other way or a little the other way. They will want to bump that mock scrape as they come by. That's going to put them right in front of you, and that's the best way that you guys can get these deer right in front of you. I have other videos on how to create man-made pinch points. Go watch those videos, check those out. That's a great way to even sweeten these up even more so to really make sure they go through that very specific part of the woods. And if you guys are wondering, hey, Ken, well, where's the best place to hunt in the afternoon? We now know when to hunt in the morning. That video will be coming out a few days after this one, so make sure you guys hit that subscribe button so you don't miss that one. Hit the like button below, leave a comment below. Do all of the algorithm things that will help you guys see that content when it comes out. If you guys enjoyed this video, YouTube really thinks you're going to enjoy this one. Otherwise, go check out this one, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.